welcome to Cooking with Becky. I'm Becky and today I thought I'd share with you a white bread recipe. All the ingredients and measurements will be listed down below, as well as on my Instagram page, which is at cookingwith_Becky. So without further ado, let's get baking. Okay, so we have all of our ingredients now. We have our milk, margarine, sugar, salt, flour, and then we also have our yeast. Now, for a typical bread recipe, you'd be using an active yeast. However, due to the pandemic, the only thing I get my hands on was an instant dry yeast. This is typically used at the bread machine, but not to worry, you can still use it how I'm gonna be using it today. It's just a little bit of a different process. So what I'm gonna do is, in the description, I'm going to have the original recipe that uses the active dry yeast, which is more typical, but then I'll also do this recipe that has the instant yeast instead. So whatever you have, you'll be able to still complete this bread recipe. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we want to do is we want to do our flour, so our 4.5 cups of flour, along with our yeast. So this is a little different than the typical recipe where normally you put the yeast in water, but because we're using that instant yeast, we're doing a little switcheroo. So, oh my God, could I get a big enough flour bag? It's literally almost the same size as me. All right, so when you take your flour, we're gonna take our 1 cup. Now this is really important when you're trying to measure something. So I'm gonna take, this is a clean bowl, nothing in it. I just wanna show you guys how to measure correctly. So if I was to take, there you go, this. See how it's over the edge there? And like, oh, this is a cup. Well, no, it's not. And for recipes, especially when you're baking, you have to be very exact. So what you wanna do, you're gonna take a butter knife, you're gonna tap. That's making sure there's no bubbles inside of your cup. And then you're gonna take it and just halfway this. And then you get this perfectly level 1 cup. So we're just gonna quickly do another 4 of these. So it's 1. And typically I just do this over the bag. I just want to show you how to do it. There we go. It's 2. 3. And 4. And I already have the 1/2 cup in there. Okay, so I'm gonna put this back in my waste no flour. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now that we have our 4.5 cups of flour, we're going to be adding in our yeast. So for our yeast, we want 2 1/4 teaspoons. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our teaspoon, go in. So when I measure these, I like to just scoop it up. And again, you see how it's not level? I just like to shake it a bit. This one you can just shake. Now it's nice and level. So that's 1. And the exact same thing we're gonna do here. Just shake it a little, nice and level. 2. We're gonna grab our 1/4 and the exact same thing. You just wanna make sure you shake it a little, nice and level. Boop, there we go. All right, so then I just like to take just a spoon and just kind of mix that all together. Okay, so we're gonna set this aside for a moment. Okay, so I have a new bowl. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix in all of our other ingredients. Now this is a really important step. Make sure you use lukewarm water. This is extremely important to make sure you activate that yeast. So I'm gonna turn my tap to warm and get a nice warm water, okay? So don't know if you're gonna hear that. Get this nice and, that's gonna get a little warm. So I guess right now we can add in our 1 cup of milk. So we have our milk, I already measured this out. Our milk, might as well add in our sugar. So we're going to be using 2 tablespoons of sugar. So just like before, you want to make sure it's nice and even. So there's 1 and 2. I'm just gonna check on that water. That's perfect. So we would like, sorry, I'm rinsing, half a cup. So we're gonna do half a cup of water. And remember what I said, you want to make sure it's nice and even so you can see the half a cup. If you're looking like this, it almost looks like I have almost 2/3 of a cup. And if you're looking like this, I don't have a cup at all, half a cup. So nice and level. So we're gonna pour that in. Put that aside. Okay, now we have our salt. So this you want teaspoons, so you're gonna grab that teaspoon again. I never do it over top of what I'm mixing in because I'm really klutzy and I tend to spill a lot. So I normally do it over another bowl or something, but I'm feeling a little risky today, so we'll just do it over the table. So there's 1 and 2. There we go. Put that aside. All right, and last thing we need is our margarine. So we're gonna do 3 tablespoons of margarine. And I know people are trying to watch their diets and figures and like, oh, that's a lot. If you're gonna bake, do what it says, because let me tell you something. If you're trying to recreate something that you see in a restaurant, they use like a stick of butter per recipe. So I tend not to worry about it. So again, grab your teaspoon. You see how overlap that is? So our handy dandy knife, you just do something like that. So it's nice and you can use your knife if you like and just kind of scoop that in. So we're gonna do 3 of those, so 2 more. I'm a little exact when it comes to baking. It's really important because for baking you need exact measurements. Cooking you can kind of get away with a mistake or two, but for baking, especially bread and pastries, follow the recipe. All right, last one. Okay. All right, so this is it. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put it into a large bowl. So first we're gonna pour in that yeast flour mixture. There we go. And then we're going to just stir this, make sure everything's kind of mixed. And this is the water milk, basically all your other ingredients with the yeast. Pour this over top. All right. And we're just gonna give it a little mix. I'm using my teaspoon, but really if you have a bigger spoon, you can use that. Whatever you have, just a little mix. And once it gets kind of this clumpiest texture, I just like bringing my hands into it. My hands are clean. I wash them before I start. I don't know. I like to use my hands. And something about it with dough. It's the easiest way. And I mean, once you let this rise in a minute, you're gonna have to use your hands anyways, so. All right. If you rub them together, everything comes right off real quick, so. See, rub my hands for like 10 seconds and basically all clean. So you just find that looks like this. It's still powdery, it's not quite done yet. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna grab a lid. So I have my lid for this and just put it just over top. It doesn't have to be clamped down. And we're gonna leave it for 10 minutes and come back. So I'll see you in another 10. So it's been about 10 minutes. So nothing's really changed. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our hand and we're just gonna kind of scoop around it, kind of like a scooping motion like that. Just get everything off the side. And if you're noticing that it's just not coming together, work it in a little bit. If you're noticing it's not coming together, I always have a bit of water. I mean, I'm not going to use this entire thing, but I have it just to my side there. That way, if I do need a bit more liquid, I can just add it in. Got it. Baking, sometimes you have to do a little bit by feel, a little bit by measurements. Yeah, so I'm not quite getting the consistency that I like. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more water. Just add a little bit at a time, because then you're gonna be playing kind of a water, flour, water motion. And saying that, if you notice that it is a little bit too liquidy for you, you can just add a little bit more flour, and that will help that right away. Oh, this is much better already. Okay. Almost done. It does take a minute. Bread making is something I don't know, I kind of wait till a Saturday morning to do it. It takes a bit of time. All right. Okay. So now all I'm gonna do is, I cleaned off my station while I was waiting. Take a bit of flour and just sprinkle it. Some people have a board they use. Nothing wrong with just using your table. And then you're gonna flop your bread mixture down. And then you're going to just knead it. So you're gonna, for about 10 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna switch the camera view. I'm gonna have it over top so you can actually see what kneading is. Okay, so this is our bread mixture here. And so when you knead, all you wanna do is, I'm gonna try and do it with my non-dominant hand, just so you can see. You're gonna take this, press down, and pull back up. You flip it, press down, pull back up. So this is all kneading is. You're gonna do this for about 10 minutes. I sometimes like to use both hands, one hand. Sometimes you flip hands because this gets tiring after a while. And so we're gonna do this for about 10 minutes. And I'll be right back. So I've been kneading my ball for about 10 minutes. What we want to do is we want to take, I'm just going to put this to the side for a second, just our regular bowl, and we're going to need to lightly grease it. So to lightly grease it, I take my butter, or I guess margarine if you want to be technical, and I use a sandwich baggie and I wrap my hand in it. I just want to take a bit, about that much, and then I'm just going to grease the inside of my bowl. This way my hands don't get dirty and doesn't stick. All right. So you got to use a big bowl, because remember that your bread is going to double in size, or at least that's the hope. So we want to put this in, but to put it in, I like to take it and you tuck it. So you make it kind of like a nice ball shape. Bottom's not too pretty, but the top's pretty pretty. All right, so we have that, and we're going to put that into our bowl. It's pretty centered there, see? And then I like to take a little bit more butter, because you can never have enough, and I just like to do the top of it. There we go. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cover it with a clean rag for an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, so it has been the hour and 15 minutes, and holy macaroni, this is definitely doubled in size. So right now, this is my favorite part, because we get to get our anger out. So what you want to do is you want to grip one side of your bowl and you're going to punch it down. Just like this. Really good to get all your anger out from the day. All right. There we go. Nice and punched down. So now what we want to do is we're going to take this out of our bowl. Grab a bit of flour, and like we did before, we're going to flour this board. There we go. Plop this down. All right. So we don't really need knead again. What you want to do is you want to take it and you want to rip it in half. Ooh, there we go. All right, put one aside, and then we just want to get this into a nice ball. I want nice and round. So just knead it just a little bit, not too much, just to get it into a nice, maybe what we do, we fold it like that and like that. There we go. Do a nice pretty ball, not so pretty on the bottom, pretty on top. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the other one. We're just gonna put it back into our red bowl. Knead it, but not too much. And remember that, there we go. Have that nice, pretty inside ball, not so pretty. And then I'm gonna put both inside here. There we go. And then we are going to cover it again with our clean rag and wait another 15 minutes. So it's been 15 minutes. Take that aside. We're going to take one ball at a time, again on a floured surface. And then we're going to, we have our balls here, we're going to tear them off into 3 exact balls. Go roughly the same size. This ball you're just going to want to just knead just a little bit, just so you can get that nice round texture again. And then you're going to put this in a previously greased pan. You're going to do that for all 3 of them. Remember, just like that, right? Go. So you want something that looks like this, okay? So I'm gonna do the exact same thing with the other one. If you do a twisting motion, it comes off pretty easily. So there we go, 1 twist. And 2 twists. Put them side by side, make sure they're roughly the same. And into a greased pan again. So now we have our 2 pans with bread, put them side by side. We're gonna cover them again with that rag. There we go. And let them rise for another hour. About 15 minutes before the hour is up, we are going to preheat our oven to 375. That way it's heated when these are all done. So I'll see you back in another hour. So it has been an hour. These are nicely risen. You can see they've almost, I'd say almost doubled in size. So we're gonna pop these in the oven at 375 for 30 minutes and we'll be right back. So our beautiful bread loaves are out of the oven. I wanted to share a little tip I use to check to see if my bread is done. I'm gonna be quiet and I want you to listen to this. You hear that hollowy sound? That's exactly what you're looking for to make sure your bread is done. So let's flip them over and try a piece. So we made our fresh bread. I'm having mine with a bit of butter with some molasses drizzled over top. It's always how I was taught to eat my fresh bread. So if you find yourself enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification. One other tip, when you're cooling your loaf, make sure it is 100% cooled before you put anything over it or your crust will go soggy. So we'll see you all next week.